President-elect Obama at the news conference today, the greatest economic challenge of our lifetime. That's what he called it. The economic meltdown that's causing so many Americans so much pain helped Obama get elected, no doubt about that. But now he's got to figure out how to fix it and what to do about it. Let's dig deeper with our panel. CNN's senior political analyst and former presidential advisor David Gergen, CNN's Christine Romans, and Marcus Mabry, international business editor for the New York Times. So, David, before we get into some specifics, how do you think he did with his first press conference?
Overall, I thought he did well. He stumbled once on the Nancy Reagan issue, and you're going to talk more about that. But overall, I thought he was presidential. He was somber. He, just as Candy Crowley had been talking about the night he won the election, how he'd taken the weight of the world onto his shoulders.
It was definitely that Obama at this press conference, not the sort of a lighter, more buncular.
Yeah, that's right. And I think the very fact that he moved so quickly was also helpful. It's worth remembering that Bill Clinton, who also won on the economy, held his sort of economic summit, if you would, in December. Not Obama has it 3 days after George W. Bush, I think in January. So he moved quickly, and I thought that was important. And I thought he sent some very important signals in the press conference.
Christine, 240,000 jobs lost last month alone, the highest unemployment rate in some 14 years. How big of a mess economically is Obama stepping into?
It's a big mess, Anderson, and it's getting worse. In fact, the economy and the job situation deteriorating. You know, half of the jobs lost this year just have happened in the last 3 months, some 600,000 jobs in the last 3 months, pretty much across the board. This week you had the stock market, for example, losing $500 billion in value. You have the auto industry really in distress here, in utter crisis. So the president-elect stepping into a situation that is getting worse literally by the day.
And Marcus, despite all this, he's pushing for new stimulus on top of the one that's already been approved. He wants to move forward before the inauguration. Can he actually get things done before he takes office?
Well, it's going to be interesting, Anderson, because, you know, he kept saying today over and over again, he actually said, he felt like he was speaking for all the American people when he said, we've lived through the longest campaign in recorded history. It's time to put partisanship aside and really concentrate on how to help the American people. And he kept emphasizing the middle class and helping the middle class. He's trying to corner the Republicans to make it so that if they oppose the things that he and the congressional leadership amongst the Democrats are proposing, like, for instance, a $60 to $100 billion in stimulus before he's even inaugurated, then they look partisan or petty somehow. But I think that's going to be a trick for them to get out of that box he's trying to put them in. Lots of Republicans would also be on the side of some stimulus after the kind of drubbing they just had at the polls. I think he may find them more amenable even than President Bush might be.
David, during the campaign, he talked a lot about planned tax cuts. When he was asked about it today, about whether higher taxes should be anticipated for some, this is what he said. Take a look.
My tax plan represented a net tax cut. It provided for substantial middle-class tax cuts. 95% of working Americans would receive them. It also provided for cuts in capital gains for small businesses, additional tax credits. All of it is designed for job growth. My priority is going to be, how do we grow the economy? How do we create more jobs? I think that the plan that we've put forward is the right one, but obviously over the next several weeks and months, we're going to be continuing to take a look at the data and see what's taking place in the economy as a whole.
He was asked about higher taxes. He didn't really answer the question. Was he just trying to get wiggle room here?
I think he was trying to get wiggle room on higher taxes. To go back to Marcus's point, one clear purpose of this press conference today was to signal an urgency on moving forward with most of his plan. And what they're talking about with the House Democrats and Senate Democrats is to come back in this rump session in the next few weeks and get a part of the stimulus package, maybe $60 to $100 billion, but to do a big part of it after he gets inaugurated. And in that second part, he would put his tax cuts for the lower and middle class groups. He left wiggle room about whether he would also raise taxes on people above 250. Right. So I think that's it. But I think he signaled three things today. He signaled urgency, which was really important. He signaled change. He signaled, I'm going to depart from the Bush plan. The stimulus package that he's pushing. The Bush White House is resisting that. Big package for automobile industry, just emerging. We're just starting to learn the details. It sounds like another $50 billion in bailout money for the automobile industry. That's new. The White House is resisting that. And he also signaled, don't push me too fast. I'm not going to move as fast as you think I'm going to move on appointments. You know, we've all been speculating about appointments. Right. I think that's become complicated for him. And I think he wants to slow the process down.
Christine, why is assisting the automotive industry, as he said, so important? I mean, obviously it's the backbone of the U.S. economy, but how's he going to pay for it?
Well, why is it important? Well, depending on who you talk to, either 2 million to 3.5 million people rely on the auto industry for jobs or for the retirement income, or are somehow related to it in terms of the business that they do. It's really important. In some of these states, it is a chief employer, and so some of these state governors have just really been pushing for something to be done. How do we pay for it? How much is it going to cost? It's going to cost a lot of money. And how do we pay for anything that we do? We put it on our bill and we borrow money for it. I mean, we're looking at a deficit next year that's going to be big. But even the people who are really worried about $1 trillion budget deficit, even the real budget hawks say, gosh, you got to spend a lot of money here in the near term just to get this economy back on the rails, and that's just a bitter pill they're going to have to swallow.
You know, Marcus, no one would say this during the election of McCain or Obama, but I mean, can Obama now pay for all these promises? I mean, can he deliver on the promises and proposals that he's talked about for the last 2 years in the campaign trail?
Well, in some way, Anderson, this horrible economy, and it's true, this is the worst economy any of us have faced in our lifetimes, is in some way a fig leaf for President-elect and soon-to-be President Obama, because it, as Christine said, everyone agrees right now that you have to spend money to get out of the horrible mess we're in. That's going to be some solace for him. It's going to give him some leeway, some wiggle room. And so he may or may not fulfill some of those promises, but few people are going to hold him responsible, I think, because we're going to see millions of Americans losing their jobs next year. It's going to be a really, really horrible situation, and I think that's going to give him some goodwill, and people are going to be looking for any aid, any assistance, any assurance that he can give it all.
You agree with that, David?
Yes, I do. Absolutely.
Okay.